Many years ago, I read a book that was set in Andorra, and it introduced to me a notion of that country that remained in my mind, so that when I was compelled by circumstances to begin my life again in some new place, I knew immediately where I wanted to go. And it was not difficult to get there, the world being how it is these days, and I went. I left behind all that I needed to leave behind, which is to say, everything. It is remarkable the ease with which one can change one's life, if one wants or needs to. Yet, of course, I didn't actually change my life. I am living the same life, only in a different country, Andorra. Andorra's dramatic topography makes it unapproachable by air, so I arrived via train from Paris, having flown that far. As a general rule, and I am afraid I am the kind of person who believes in general rules, I like to arrive in new places by train. There is something about literally crossing borders, traversing frontiers, watching the countryside hurtle by the window and become exurban, and then the gradual diminution of speed as the train approaches a city that allows one to arrive with an experience of place that flying disallows. Andorra is a small country, and her city, for there is only one, the capital, La Plata, is proportionately small. The train station at which I found myself was not the chaotic grand temple one expects in European cities, but simply several glass-roofed platforms separated by as many tracks, a whitewashed waiting room with worn wicker furniture and a ceiling fan that rotated at a speed that succeeded only in proving that it was operational. I was the sole passenger to detrain at La Plata. I thought this an odd, but perhaps good omen. I liked the idea I was going to a place not frequented by others. Until I had found a suitable place to rent, I had decided to stay in a hotel, and I told the cab driver to take me to the city's best hotel. As I later discovered, La Plata has only one hotel, but it was of a quality that suggested the best in any case. La Plata, in fact, was a peculiarly singular city, I was to find. It had just one of almost everything, save churches and restaurants, of which it had only a few. The hotel was called the Excelsior, and the best room they had available was a large circular one on the top floor, in a turret. Its dramatic placement in the building made it almost inaccessible. I followed the bellhop from the elevator up a flight of stairs to the base of the turret. We ascended a wrought-iron spiral staircase to a little foyer with a grillwork floor. The bellhop unlocked the door and opened it into the room, moving aside so that I could enter first. The room was full of sunlight, and its rounded walls prevented the furniture from being arranged in a conventional pattern. The sofa and bed and desk and chairs were scattered almost haphazardly about. A narrow wrought-iron balcony encircled the turret, and I stepped through the open French doors, which were slightly beveled to accommodate the curving walls. Directly below me, in front of the hotel, there lay a broad cobblestoned plaza with a fountain at its center. 3 bronze fishermen stood on a pile of rocks, casting lines of sparkling water into the air. Flying fish rose up from the fountain's basin, exhaling spumes of water back at the fishermen. On the far side of the plaza, past a row of palm trees, a freshly raked red gravel promenade surrounded the small harbor, which was full of small and colorful boats and a few ostentatious yachts. This promenade led in one direction to a flight of stone steps, at the top of which was a large, low building from whose open facade spilled an assortment of cafe tables and chairs. As I watched, a young man emerged from the restaurant and moved about the tables, unfurling red and white striped umbrellas above them. I thought I might have my lunch there. At one end of the plaza stood a majestic building adorned with flags that suggested government, and facing it at the opposite end stood a correspondingly majestic building with an ornate glass and iron marquee that suggested entertainment. Assorted shops and some market stalls completed the square. I walked a few steps along the balcony, and a new and entirely different vista came into view. The stone houses of the town, which rose up from the plaza in a series of terraces. Each terrace was a subtly different shade of red, varying from terracotta to maroon. Behind the last row of houses was a rather sheer cliff traversed by a funicular railway, the cars presently motionless, resting on the face of the cliff in vivid dots of red. There seemed to be a plateau at the top of the cliff, but I could not make out its character. Beyond that, though, higher up still, shimmering in the strong morning light, stood snow-capped mountains, and behind them, at the top of all this world, a sky of almost unnerving blue.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.